first immersive podcast I ever had the pleasure of listening to, The Left-Right Game, is truly groundbreaking in the art of sound-based storytelling. Unlike Baraska, which I also discovered through Creepcast before experiencing the full impact of QCODE's production, The Left-Right Game captivated me right from the start. Hearing it on Creepcast was one thing, but when QCODE's highly produced version fell into my lap, it elevated the story to a whole new level. If you love uncanny environments, liminal spaces, and the eerie repetition of time loops, this story will resonate deeply. Though it may not be for everyone, but for me, it was everything I love. The premise is deceptively simple. A man in Bristol, UK doesn't think much when his former roommate Alice goes radio silent after landing her dream job as a journalist in America. But then he receives a mysterious batch of audio files from her that hint at a far more sinister fate. It turns out Alice just joined an older man named Rob, who is determined to make a new story out of his obsession with an obscure and seemingly harmless game, the Left-Right Game, where players drive through city streets turning left, then right, then left again. What starts as a random road trip turns into something far more ominous, as Alice and her fellow travelers stumble into a supernatural other world beyond their control. From the moment I heard the story on Creepcast, I was struck by how creative and original the premise was. Such a simple setup, then it's elevated to mind-bending extremes, but what truly sets the QCODE podcast apart is its voice acting and sound design. As I've mentioned in my previous Ear Candy video, QCODE sound design creates an immersive world that feels as vivid as watching a film. And the Left-Right Game takes this to a new level. It makes perfect sense too, just like Alice's former roommate, where listening to a batch of audio files for the first time experience every terrifying twist alongside the characters. Tessa Thompson lends her voice to Alice, and her performance brings an incredible depth to the character, making Alice's journey feel relevant with a sense of urgency. The ensemble cast is fantastic, with each actor embodying their character in a way that makes the group dynamic both believable and engaging. Despite being strangers on a shared mission, the characters form a bond that feels authentic by the end. I was particularly drawn to Rob, played with gravitas and mystery, giving the sense that he's seen things others couldn't even imagine. In a classic road trip story, the characters often take center stage, but in a horror thriller like this, the setting is just as crucial. Here, the road itself becomes a character, an eerie, liminal space that grows more unsettling the deeper the group travels. Both urban landscapes and natural environments seamlessly flow in and out of the narrative, foreshadowing later events while serving as constant reminders that something is very, very wrong. The story masterfully plays with time and space, and I loved how these elements were central to the plot. The road is not just a backdrop, it is the core of the entire narrative, shaping every twist and turn. What amazes me most is the depth of each character. Even those who don't stick around for a long feel integral to the story, leaving emotional voids when they're gone. One standout for me was Blue Jay's descent into madness. One of the best, most haunting character arcs I've ever encountered in horror fiction, and Rob, as the enigmatic guide, keeps the momentum driving forward. Meanwhile, Tessa Thompson's Alice is a compelling lead, carrying the emotional weight of the story in a way that keeps you hooked. The existential concept of the road is fascinating. An endless journey where the boundaries of reality blur and the possibilities of alternate dimensions stretch into infinity. The idea that turning left then right over and over again could transport you to another world is mesmerizing. The horror here is tangible, with the kind of creeping dread that slowly builds into the full-blown terror. The liminal spaces, the sense of something being deeply off, it's all masterfully done. And then, there's the sound. Yes, I know it's a podcast, so sound is obviously important, but QCODE's sound design isn't in league of its own. The production is meticulous, making audio feel three-dimensional. There are moments that made me physically cringe, like when a tow hook pierces a character's skin in episode 3. The sound of cars sinking into gravel, or the desperate honking of a car's horn as it's consumed by the road are unforgettable. These auditory choices make this story come to life in a visceral way that didn't go unnoticed. In all honesty, The Left-Right Game is one of my favorite pieces of internet fiction ever. It's eerie, emotionally charged at the right moments, and graphic enough to make it even a seasoned horror fan wince. It's an incredible story, and I'd recommend it to anyone remotely interested in horror, surrealism, or the supernatural. When the podcast was first released in 2020, there were reports that Amazon had bought the rights for a TV adaptation, but we've heard little since. I hope the recent writers/actor strikes didn't kill this project, because unlike Baraska, The Left Right Game would absolutely thrive as a limited series. The audio drama takes the story's existential horror to another level, creating a reality warping terror that at the end left me feeling transformed. I found myself gasping out loud and muttering, "Oh shit," more than once. I've recommended this to all my friends already, but seriously, listen to this as soon as possible. Just be cautious if you're driving. The sound design is so realistic that you might find yourself startled by phantom noises. In conclusion, The Left Right Game is a magnificent piece of fiction and one of the best stories I've ever encountered, especially this year, right up there with Baraska. If these were movies instead of podcasts, they'd easily be my top 5 films of the year. But as podcasts, they are standouts in their immersive form. I can't recommend The Left Right Game enough. It captures the analog horror vibe that R/No Sleep is known for, but elevates it into something utterly captivating and imaginative.
But I told you. This street, this is your last chance.
As ridiculous as it might sound, I think my friend may have documented her own disappearance. If you know anyone involved in this story, any of the locations mentioned, anything I can use to get in touch with Alice, please don't hesitate to contact me. Were you in the area on February the 7th of this year? Did you meet or speak with a girl called Alice Sharman? Has anyone heard of the Left Right Game?
Tune in every Friday for new movie videos. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment down below what other movies you would like me to do videos on. Thank you, Mom, for editing the scripts for my movie essays. I appreciate you. Till next time, thanks for watching. Catch you on the flip side.